Episode 5 of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1 quietly delivered one of the show's most emotional revelations, and it had nothing to do with Georgie, Mandy, or even the McAllisters. Instead, it centered on Sheldon and the fact that he missed the Cooper family's first Thanksgiving after George Sr.'s death. It's a detail that wasn't shouted from the rooftops, but the moment it lands, it changes the way we see the Cooper family timeline and the way each member handled their grief. In young Sheldon, George Sr.'s death reshaped everything. The family fractured emotionally, even if they stayed together physically. Everyone processed it differently, but Sheldon's reaction was always harder to pin down. We knew he went off to Caltech earlier than expected, and we knew he threw himself into academics the way Sheldon always does when he doesn't want to confront something painful. But this episode confirms something deeper. He wasn't there for the first Thanksgiving without his dad. And that absence says more than any monologue or flashback ever could. What makes this reveal powerful is how casually it comes up. It's mentioned almost in passing, but the emotional weight is heavy. It reminds us that Sheldon, for all his intelligence, was a kid who didn't know how to deal with loss. Avoidance was his coping mechanism. Going back home, sitting at a table where his father should have been, might have been too overwhelming for him. And instead of dramatizing that, the show lets the audience fill in the emotional blanks. It also reframes how the rest of the family experienced that holiday. Mary probably tried to hold everything together the best she could. Georgie, already shouldering adult responsibilities far too early, likely tried to step into a role he wasn't ready for. Missy, who always felt overlooked, probably felt Sheldon's absence even more deeply. The idea that the family gathered for that first Thanksgiving with one empty chair for George Sr. and another for Sheldon is heartbreaking in its simplicity. It paints a picture of a family still present, but undeniably changed. This reveal also adds complexity to Sheldon's future relationship with his family. In The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon is often criticized for being detached or insensitive, especially when it comes to big emotional moments. But when you think about the fact that he couldn't even face his family during their first holiday without his father, it adds layers to his behavior. It doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. Sheldon has always struggled with emotional intimacy, and something as devastating as losing a parent only amplified that difficulty. Another interesting angle is how this affects our understanding of Sheldon's bond with Georgie. Their relationship was strained for years, and moments like this help explain why. Georgie had to stay, had to deal with the aftermath, had to step up. Sheldon got to leave. Georgie had to watch the family fall apart in real time, while Sheldon avoided it. That kind of imbalance leaves scars, even if neither brother fully talks about it. This small detail from episode 5 suddenly makes the Cooper brothers' long-term rift feel even more grounded. What the episode does well is show how life continues for the people who stay. While Sheldon was away at Caltech, trying to intellectually outrun his grief, the rest of his family was learning how to live with the empty space George Sr. left behind. And Georgie and Mandy's first marriage never sensationalizes it. Instead, it shows how trauma quietly lingers in traditions, in routines, in holidays that don't feel the same anymore. The reveal also works because it comes from a show that isn't even about Sheldon. The writers didn't have to include this detail, but by doing so, they remind viewers that young Sheldon and first marriage share emotional DNA. Sheldon may not be the center of this series, but the shadow of his absence still affects everything in the Cooper family timeline. Ultimately, Episode 5 delivers something subtle but meaningful. Sheldon wasn't just a kid genius who left home early. He was a grieving son who didn't know how to step back into a house without his father in it. And as sad as that is, it's also real. Families don't navigate grief perfectly. Sometimes people pull closer, and sometimes they distance themselves. Sheldon chose distance. And, because of this episode, we now understand that choice better.